Almost 350 years ago, a small number of sacred doors opened for the first time. Some of these doors are very familiar to us and our own coming and going. One of them is unfamiliar, a door that none of us has ever used. Now it's more of an echo or even a ghost, and it's about to come to life. More on that a little later. One of our familiar doors is the door to the church in the courtyard. We've all just walked through it. Open towards Piccadilly, it is, however, a somewhat subtle door. A lot of people miss it, despite a tower and signage and the busy atmosphere of the courtyard every day. Even so, there are thousands of people, many of whom you will have met and spoken to, who have said and will continue to say, "I've been here so many times, I've never been inside the church." This door, as you know, is also a cut through to Jermyn Street, straight through the narthex. People walk back and forth every day beneath Che Lovelace's bright paintings of figures, trees, and birds, a turtle, that's my favorite one with the turtle in the water, water's edges, and all those stars. I don't know if you've noticed, but those paintings are full of stars. A bright constellation in the sky above for whoever walks through, whether they've noticed or not. Some people do pause in that space just outside the doors on the west end of the church. And they do so for a lot of reasons, but mostly for us too, it's a place of transition, a place where people come and go, whether they turn 90 degrees or whether they walk straight through. There's also another door in that space. Some of you will have seen it opened. It goes out directly towards the garden. For a really long time, I thought that that door was alarmed, so I was always afraid to open it. And so from time to time, people would say, "Oh, what's through that door?" And I'd be like, The door is not alarmed. You push the bar, you open it. If everybody does it, it gets annoying for the vergers, but thankfully, you won't get into trouble if you open it. And sometimes, especially on bright, beautiful, warm days, not like this one, the door does open, and there is a wide and amazing vision out through the courtyard, the tables of people enjoying their coffee, and the garden beyond, those tall, beautiful trees planted long ago. There's also a sculpture of Mary. She's listening to God. I don't know how much time each of you has spent with this sculpture, maybe none. It's really beautiful. It's stone in motion. There's also some light moss, a bit of a green patina of the years growing lightly across her body as she moves, still full of energy. On Sunday mornings, normally, not this morning because it was too wet and horrible and we were all worried about tripping over the stairs, so forgive us that. But on Sunday mornings, normally, the servers, vergers, and clergy will come straight through that door and assemble, as we do this morning too, in the narthex. We pause. We listen to the musicians. We welcome in the folks who arrive just on the edges of 11 a.m., just before the church strikes the hour. We know who you are. We see you. We welcome you. It's honestly okay. It really is. The faces that appear where people have that, "Oh my goodness, am I late? Am I not?" But it's like 5-2 and you're all here and we don't know what to do. It's perfectly fine. Please do come past us. But when the hymn starts, don't do that. Just wait, because then you end up as part of the procession and it's weird for everybody. But in those moments just before, please do come in. It's a good and a beautiful space to gather and to pause and, just like everybody else, to flow through. On Sunday mornings then, as I did this morning, I often think of that steadfast sculpture of Mary just beyond the door, just behind us. Right now, today, at Epiphany, there is another Mary in the building, with the newborn Christ in her arms as she presents him to us. And so then, across the church and out into the fresh air of the courtyard, plants and people breathing today, the stones wet with cold winter rain, these two images of Mary in stone and wood are creating a bridge of love for us right now. The Mary out there that we can't see, though she is with us right over there. And the Mary and Christ just here. As the 12 days of Christmas come to an end, today is a culmination of joy and discovery. In Matthew's gospel, there is this really beautiful phrase, which is translated in our modern version as, when they saw the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. When's the last time you were overwhelmed with joy? It might be a while. It might not be something that you can call to mind right now. It might have been this morning or right now. It could be something big or small. In the gospel, Matthew really struggles with this phrase. In his own language, which was Greek, he had no idea how to describe this. And so every translation of this ever into any language has been a kind of awkward compromise. And in the original, it's like, they were very much great joy, very. And so this is someone who's struggling to express euphoria in language. So it wouldn't be too bad, actually, to translate it as, they were euphoric. If you've ever felt that, a kind of in-body and out-of-body experience, it's like what happens when heaven and earth touch. And so today, we bask in that culmination of great joy. So we can pause and breathe, whether you feel it yourself, or whether it's something you long for, or whether it's something you can imagine, or that happens, that comes upon you as a gift from God. We're in the midst of the great joy of the Magi. This nativity scene, beloved by many, with its shepherds, Joseph, Mary, Jesus, the crib, and curious and solid Magi with their sculpted wooden gifts. This scene moves here in this church, between the side chapel and the center of the church, sometimes multiple times in a week or even in a day, and this has been with us for many weeks now, many weeks since the beginning of Advent. I'd like now to invite Chris, our head verger, to tell us something about these that I don't know, and that I'm pretty sure none of you in the congregation knows either. Chris, what's it like to lift these?
I feel like I should say more than difficult. They're extraordinarily heavy. They carry a weight of the significance of what they represent, but also a physical weight. The physical weight is the harder bit to carry. And the thing I think that I struggle with most, and probably the rest of the vergers too, and some other people who do help us, is there is not a dignified way to carry them. If you ever see us moving them, very often it's in a hurry because we're running from pillar to post, thank you to the clergy. But because of what they are and what they were carved from and how they were made, we can't stick handles on them. So you have to take them under the arms. You have to lift them into your arms and carry myrrh like a child, and he is never happy about it. He always has that same miserable expression. He is the patron saint of vergers. But I think the challenge is trying to carry them with dignity. They're not magical, but they represent something that is greater than all of us. They represent something that is beyond all of us. And as Ayla said, at this time, they are right where they should be. And we bring them in and out when we have to, but this is where they should be. But that weight, the physical weight, the spiritual weight, is what we carry. It's heavy.
Chris, please preach more sermons. That was it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No notes, and I asked him at 2 minutes to 11. So thank you. And I love the idea of a spiritual as well as a physical weight, and that you kind of have to take them as they are. And they are going to move again quite soon, and we won't see them for a long time. So please do, as we gather around them for the Eucharist today and afterwards, touch them, interact with them. Don't just look. They're meant to be a part of this place, and they were for a long time because they were made from a tree in the courtyard, which stood in the courtyard, proud and tall, for nearly 100 years. If you wish to, I invite you to keep these words by St. Ephrem of Syria in mind. This was someone who wrote these words about 1,600 years ago, long before any of this city was even a thought, no less built in the way that we see it now. So here's what St. Ephrem has to say. Reconciling peace, Jesus sent to the people, gladdening flash, who came to the gloom. Powerful leaven, conquering all in silence, patient one, who has captured the creation, little by little. Blessed is he who became small without limit to make us great without limit. In Ephrem's prayerful poetry, as we look at these figures, notice that the power is in the bread, the leaven, the yeast, risen for us. Jesus as our nourishment and our salvation, born as a child, living, dying, and then resurrected eternally. And Jesus compares himself to bread, even saying, as metaphor, as poetry, I am the bread of life. And that's the bread and the wine that we share together with these figures at Epiphany, at this golden altar. And so salvation arrives with a fresh revolution of love in tiny hands and feet, in wet eyes, in a hungry, crying mouth, like we all had once. That's outrageous. That's not the way that it's meant to go. It's not what people were waiting for, and yet it's the truth, and it's what God chose to do. And that word great, to make us great without limit. It's not great in the way that you might expect it. It's more like to become fully human without limit, fully alive because of the life that God gave and keeps on giving. On the brink of a new year, what will each of us choose to do with the gift of life that God has given each of us and given you? Hope is a gift. Imagination is a gift. It doesn't have to be gold or tree sap, which is what myrrh and frankincense are. It is, whatever it may be, the best of yourself, the best of ourselves. And sometimes it takes a whole lifetime to figure out what that best is. And then, after that, how to give. And that difficult thing, too, how to receive. Someone asked me recently, what do I have to do to become a member of St. James's Piccadilly? Asked it with a kind of concern as well as curiosity. What must I do? What's the process? I responded, you already are, if you want to be, because this place belongs to you. So whether you've been here for a few minutes or a few decades, there is in God's own hospitality in the tiny baby that the Magi meet at Epiphany, an infinite and a real belonging for you with God. And all we try to do here in church together is to make that real. So I'm sorry to say as well that even if you've only been here for about half an hour, perhaps even less, you are now enfolded into the fabric of welcome. In a sense, everyone is new. In another sense, as soon as you step into this place, you're kind of not new anymore, because hospitality and welcome is everyone's to give as best we can in the way that God gives it. And God models how we might receive it too. And that's what the Magi experienced with God in Jesus. And it's striking to me that they don't leave their gifts in their boxes and go. They unwrap them together. The Magi will have put those gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, into boxes long, long ago before they made the journey. The journey was really long. They may have even forgotten what they looked like. They could never forget how heavy they were. When they go back by another road, when they've worshipped, when the gifts have been opened, they go back with their bags slightly lighter because they didn't receive an object in return. They gave their gift away. They gave their hearts and their love and their faith. And then it's the growth of the love and the heart and the faith in them that is the gift. A little bit like what Chris was describing with these figures. Spiritually deep, heavy even, lasting. And also, like the Magi, euphoric, light, pure joy. Heaven and earth touch in each of these gifts. Gold comes from the ground. It's a mineral, sometimes flashing in streams for people to be dazzled by it. And as I said earlier, frankincense and myrrh are both sap, incense that fills the air, and a resin, in myrrh's case, that is produced when the plant is wounded. And when the plant is wounded, that resin emerges, and it was used to soothe the wounds of the dead. Do you remember, like ages ago, I talked about a door that no one's been through and that no one remembers? The door is back. In more ways than one, the door is back. Christopher Wren's plan for St. James's almost 350 years ago included a door to the south, here. So north, south, and the east-west axis all connected, with the altar and the Eucharist in the center, just as we have now. In the 19th century, this door was bricked up. So we used to have a door, and now we don't have a door anymore. So the project, which starts tomorrow, the folks who are going to bash a hole in that wall sensitively, carefully, it's a grade 1 listed building, they're going to be really careful, it's going to be really beautiful. They start tomorrow. That work begins. So for us, that's the work of Christmas. That's the work of the beauty, of the joy of the Magi coming to worship and to be here, coming from anywhere and everywhere. That's the work that we're embarking on over the next few months. And it's the first phase of the Wren Project, where the whole of this place will be transformed for the good, not just the church, but the community too. Think about where we are in London and the way that that connects to compass points, north, south, east, and west. Every Church of England church has a parish boundary, and ours is kind of like a messy rectangle with Piccadilly running right through east to west as the axis in the middle, with the church in the center. We are about to join the cross of those spaces together, finally, at last, by reopening that south door. North and south, east and west. This church is already a blessing. It's already holy ground. And with this door as the beginning of our project, the triumph and the beauty of the holiness of joy in Christ, in the Eucharist, at the altar, is going to be open to more people than ever, in more ways than ever. Whatever they bring with them, and whatever they leave with. So imagine that the Magi are traveling through London and they're coming to see us and be with us. They're at Charing Cross. They walk straight past St. Martin in the Fields. I don't know why they do that, but in my imagination, they just walk straight past St. Martin in the Fields. I don't know. And they walk across Haymarket and they're making their way onto Jermyn Street. And they think, oh, well, there's no space over there, so we're going to have to clop our camels in through the Jermyn Street entrance, or we're going to have to walk through the cafe. The people working in the cafe, they find that slightly awkward. We'll go back around Church Place, which is a little bit grungy and kind of gross. Maybe they get totally distracted by the cheese shop where they decide that they need 1,000-pound shoes immediately. They don't even make it in the church. Hopefully not. With this new beautiful door, they can walk right in, just like so many people will. The Eucharist is in the center for us always, and now in this building, in a new and in an ancient way, the Eucharist will be in the center again, beautiful and fresh every day. Because, as St. Ephrem said, God became small without limit to make us great without limit. Amen.